Rush for adopting resolutions, back-to-back resolutions by the UN Security Council? And does it have anything to do with the outgoing U.S. administration of George W. Bush?
Well, it's very important. The Security Council resolutions send a clear message. One, more so about the piracy themselves, that piracy should not be accepted in the open seas, but more so in terms of trying to support the current government in Somalia, who, for all intensive purposes, is in complete disarray. As we know, over the last 2 years, they've been flagged and supported by Ethiopian troops who themselves have been armed and logistically support provided by the United States. The picture on Somalia is a complex one. It's one that involves all the various clan groups, all the various affiliate groups, especially that of the Islamic clerics, who themselves have done a humanitarian assistant job on Somalians, because as we know, the population of Somalia has been suffering, and they've been suffering for some time. So it's a complete mixed bag, and I think it's the response from the international community trying to solve the problems which are engulfing Somalia and clearly engulfing the open seas as well.
And Nani Kofi, do you think this UN resolution, UN Security Council resolution, is going to do anything about addressing that humanitarian crisis as well?
For those who have regularly listened to me on Press TV, you know that I do not actually view positively these supposed international community interventions. Actually, one can remember the failed UN effort of intervention in Somalia again about 2 decades ago. I think that it is important to rather look at the root causes of the present crisis in Somalia, and by just trying to pass resolutions as if some declarations internationally will bring peace to Somalia, it's not going to take us anywhere. I always want to point out that the forces which are responsible for the situation in Somalia, and not only in Somalia, because Somalia epitomizes the post-colonial situation in Africa as a whole. The forces responsible have got an external dimension. And when people talk about clan warfare, clan conflict in Somalia, one thing they do not do is to explain the history of what is supposed clan warfare in Somalia. The fact is that supposed clan warfare in Somalia, one country in Africa where the people speak one language and they have one dominant religion, and despite the fact that
that seems to be a very curious point
powers
you brought
have
up,
intervened there, the country has been able to hold together as one.
Because it seems to be a rare exception in Africa that most of the other regions in Africa where we do have crises outbreaking, they do seem to be having ethnic diversities, but in Somalia in particular, there seems to be a unified race of people there, and that seems to be a good reason
That's exactly what I was going to explain.
That's what I was, driving at.
Exactly what I was going to explain.
On that note, how about going to Ayo Johnson? Now, Ayo Johnson, now, no doubt...
Yeah, you can come in there, but I want to come back on that point
I will come back to you in just a while. Now, Ayo Johnson, the way the other panelists, Nani Kofi, described it, it seems to be Somalia and the deplorable situation there seems to be a microcosm of a larger and broader cosmic play, if you will, in which it does epitomize the residues of colonial projects still wreaking havoc on the entire continent. But on that note, I want to see coming to the roots of the issue of piracy seems to be much larger and much more complicated than just a bunch of, let's say, unsavory characters and criminals going about stealing and robbing people and seizing unlawfully cargo ships. There seems to be other ills and evils involved. Now, how could you describe those, the larger context of those ills and evils?
Well, it's a combination of many factors. The piracy that we're seeing in the open seas is a reflection of the chaos that we have on the ground in Somalia. Make no means about it. Somalia is not a functioning state. That's the first, because as a functioning state, you've got to be able to protect your waters, and clearly that's not happening. On the secondly, you also have the fact that we have all these various groups within Somalia, all the various clans within Somalia who clearly are trying to make a state or take control of that land. And them taking it to the waters, as we've seen lately, is a reflection of the fact that the people of Somalia are desperate. There are a lot of hungry people. Clearly, a lot of people do not have jobs. And I think what we're seeing is the fact that a lot of piracy.
Johnson, forgive the interjection. Now, if we understand that there is no, despite those rampant ethnic animosities and inter-clan rivalries, there is an ethnic purity, if not unity, throughout the region, then what could be the cause of so much factional fractures and clashes other than a political agenda? Now, the question is this political agenda internal and, let's say, entraneous to the culture of that region, or is this something exported to that region and external?
Well, the piracy that we've been seeing lately is a new phenomenon anyway in itself. I mean, we used to know piracy of old, but this level of piracy, grabbing ships, the ransom, the large amounts of money that's been asked for these millions of dollars, and I think, again, it's a symptom of the fact that there's so many different groups in Somalia. Language is an issue, customs is an issue. Clearly, people feel disenfranchised from the system itself, not being able to voice themselves within the current political system there. And I think what we're seeing is a frustration. And also, it's an illegal act, really, and it shouldn't be condoned.
No doubt about it. Reprehensible, inexcusable. Nani Kofi, I promised to pick you up on that. Why don't you go ahead?
Yes. If I can be allowed to make two quick points. The first one, to talk about things being illegal or illegal. If we look at the concept of law and the history of law anywhere, new laws are made when new areas are stretched and new traditions are developed and accepted as the traditions of the time. There's no law which has been there since time immemorial. So the thing about legality is not a closed door or a closed circuit thing. In terms of people wanting to take control of resources, that is a normal thing for human beings, all parts of the world, to control the resources within their terrain, and so that they can use it in the interest of others, not that other people have their resources and then they manage it while other people control it. Then, most importantly, which is the point I want us to get very, very clear, is that this thing about clan warfare, as if Somalia is a Tower of Babel, is a total distortion of the situation and a very historical approach to the situation in Somalia. The fact is that let us accept that among all African countries, Somalia is one country which has one dominant language. Let us not talk about dialect. There is no other country like that in Africa which has one dominant language, one dominant religion as well. Even that dominant language extends to Ogaden in Ethiopia, extends to northern Kenya, extends to Djibouti, and so there must be a question that when we have a situation of a certain homogeneity, cultural homogeneity, how come that there is a situation of an ungovernable and non-functioning state? And which is that I think that it's important for us to explain historically.